Okay, today's Friday. It's 8:30 p.m. It is July 10th. This is truly a rabbit hole, this trading thing. Um, to put it lightly, it is very complex. It is. I never imagined. Uh, I never imagined that once I said that this is a very complex thing, trading, that there would be even more complexity beyond that. Okay. And I heard of people saying, okay, this time I got it. This time I got it, right? And many times I would say that, but something would come up to essentially take the rug underneath from my feet. Okay, so this latest one, which is essentially it's the dynamics of trading. There are two things that are causing a severe problem in my trading. Okay, it's forgetting. Okay, it's forgetting is one of them. The second part is the emotion that pops up that causes that forgetfulness to enter into trading. Okay, and so it's the steel trap, which is the mind is giving out. Okay, so if I am isolated in doing something consistently, then my mind is intact. It's not being bombarded with external influences that causes deviation from my thinking. Okay, but when I exit my cave, okay, then I'm bombarded with the external forces. So the external forces in the way of advertisements and all that stuff, just like advertisements, something will cause me to connect with the external world, which is advertisement, for me to grasp onto it and hang on to it. So something in me is being drawn out from the external force. That's why advertisements work so well. So it all ties into the intrusion into my thinking. Okay, so uh, now now I'm just drawing out the scenario here of a couple things that I've observed. About three things, okay? About three things that are that has occurred, and I have to address it so that I can understand it more, and then I can ultimately what I want to do is I want to be able to protect myself from the external world. Okay, I have to protect myself from the external world. Okay, growing myself uh, and exploring the world. There's another way of doing it. Uh, it's like reaching out, grabbing onto the external world to bring it in, to analyze and understand it. Okay, that's one way of doing it. The second part is the second part is defining what is define what is intrusion, what is intruding into my life, so that I can block it. Okay, so I need to be able to block that. But so far, what I don't see has been intruding into my life, right? And so this ties into like meditating before trading. Okay, to vacate, try to vacate something that is subconscious and conscious, but it's difficult to do. So meditation is the ability to see the subconscious. That's the point of what meditation is. To to rearrange what has occurred to me, to put it aside and things will and trade properly. Ultimately, the idea is to trade properly, but there has been an invasion of external influences that has occurred in my life, which has always caused problems in my trading. So there are two things that are causing a severe problem. Okay, a severe problem in my trading. Okay, There's actually three. It's a process of developing my trading idea, which allows me to trade properly when the market dynamics changes. So the thing that has to be dynamic is for me to keep trading, keep trading when the market dynamic has changed. So that's the so I have to understand the market dynamics. Okay, the second part is understanding the mind. Okay. So I have to be dynamic with the market. I have to be dynamic with the market. Okay? I have to be dynamic with the market. The second part is I have to keep growing. So there's three things, right? So the essentially strategy. So there are three things that I need to be aware of, and I have to practice in order for me to get good at it. Okay, so I have to get at it. So forgetting means that I'm not using enough to apply it when the market changes. So there's three ways the market change, right? It goes up, it goes sideways, or it goes down. So that's the change that occurs. So the application of my trading is going to be slightly, may or may not be the same. Okay. So there has to be an understanding of the market to determine whether the market is going up, going sideways, or going down. Okay. Essentially, that's what the market is doing. The market is going up, sideways, or down. And the reason that I'm talking about this is because I'm trying to understand it. Okay. I'm trying to understand the market. Then there's the part that is the mind. Okay. The mind is something that I was not aware of. Then I started to see this. So today is a Friday. Tomorrow is going to be a Saturday, and this is a great opportunity for me to explore this and understand it. Okay, so uh, I'm going to be studying the strategy. Okay, I'm gonna be strategizing what I'm going to do in the following uh, uh, what I'm going to be doing in the following days. Okay, I sent an email to a Catholic deacon uh, who was kind enough to give me a job at a restaurant, and and uh, and I've been periodically sending an email to him of my progress, of which I haven't made any progress at this point. I'm losing the same. I have $0 when I started out. I made money and I lost all of it, and I have $0, and so everything is the same. Losing everything. What is different? What is different is that I know a little more each day. Okay, and I'm thinking to myself, is this information useful or not? Is this information useful or not? Okay, um, right? Is whatever I have, is this useful or not? And how long is it going to take? I don't know. Okay, that means that means that I have to really I have to get to the point where I can reliably gain instead of losing for a year. And so I'm like thinking about this. So for the past 1 year since I got a payout from the 5K, I was trying to duplicate it, but it has been impossible for the past 1 year, right? So how did I get there? Okay, so when I look back, oh, okay. So I didn't look back hard enough. I didn't look. I didn't look I didn't look back into my trading what was successful. Okay, I just concluded that the trading that I did was successful. Okay, that's what I without fully comprehending what the specifics are. Okay, what was the specifics that allowed me to pass the phase one, pass the phase two, and actually get two payouts? What was it? Okay, what were those things? Okay, so one of the factors that I noticed that I was eating oatmeal. I was just oatmeal. I was down. I was literally. I was at a point where I said to myself, "Look, I'm very, very serious. I got to be very, very serious." And I was like, I was very rigid in the things that I did, and I devoted my total life to making those trades. Okay, making those trades, I was in total. Uh, I was literally totally uh, like resigned to make the right trades, and I focused on that. Okay, and then as I started to see success, I started to loosen up, and then I unraveled. Okay, and since then I haven't been able to get back to that same state. Okay, the mind and the strategy that I had, I've forgotten what the strategy is. Okay, how I got to that point, right? So then at this point, so then there's gonna be three things I'm hoping to address today, this weekend until Sunday rolls in and I can start trading. Okay, and then strategize that. So currently, what happened was I had two 10K challenges with funding pips. Okay, so the one that was drawn to 3.5%, I was able to bring it up after struggles. I was trying to trade something that was going down, which is gold and NQ was going down. It was going down, and I was trading that, and that's difficult because it was the P&L was swinging wildly. But I managed to bring it up to 4.5% from the 3.5%, and then I took two bad trades that caused the account to just erode, because at the point of the second trade, it was wrong, and then even if I stopped it, it would have been difficult for me to get back. Okay, and so I was so heavily. The thinking that I had was, okay, I'm gonna try to see if I can get 10% today with this account. Okay, that's what I said to myself. Under a different day, it would have been possible if I chose something that was going up. Okay, when something was either moving sideways or going up, but when something's going down and I'm trying to go long, that's a big problem. Okay, so I have to understand the dynamics of I have to understand the dynamics of how price moves. Okay, I have to understand that. It goes up, it goes sideways, it goes down, it goes sideways. Okay, it's a box. It does that all the time. So within the controls of what happens within that box, uh, then it's consistent in the behavior. Okay, in its behavior, even if it's going up or down, when it's pulling back, it's the same thing. The pullback when it goes up and then pulls back a little bit, there's a higher chance that the pullback is going to go back up. Okay, when it's moving up, but when it's moving down, it's difficult. Okay, so it's difficult when it's moving down because I'm thinking, okay, so when it breaks out, when it's going down, I'm thinking, okay, so I probably don't make any sense at all, but I'm trying to get this taken care of. So, so when it's going down, it looks like it's breaking out, but it's not breaking out. It's actually going up a little bit. Looks like it's going back up. It's a fake out, and it goes down. Generally speaking, that's what happens when the price is moving down. The bigger trend is causing whatever is happening to fall back down. So there would be it's very similar to something like a green candle that pops up once in a while. So it's the people who are shorting who are buying it, who are buying, right? So then now I've gotten to the point where um uh I believe I've found something. Okay, so now those are the three things that I'm going to be strategizing. Um, so then there's this guy, and I'm uh, so what I did is I devoted a lot of time on YouTube studying S&P Capital, studying many of the channels. Okay, what I found out is that much of the information is useful if I know what I'm doing. If I know what I'm doing, much of the information is useful. But if I don't know what I'm doing, then what is out there is not useful because I'm not applying whatever they're saying because I don't know how to apply what they're saying, even if it's true. Okay. So this psychiatrist said this. Okay. So he's providing a information that is useful if I understand it. Okay. If I understand it, then it's useful. It's like people saying, okay, so if you are successful in one thing, then you're going to be successful as a trader. Okay, so that's obvious. Okay, that's obvious. You said it, but it's obvious. Okay, of course it's obvious, right? If you're because it's a discipline. It's a discipline that other people are being successful at, and there are other people who are successful at whatever their discipline is. And then the person who knows how things work knows that whatever uh, is used to be successful in this will be successful in that, right? That's why it's successful. So that means when they make that statement, they're saying that it is possible. It is possible to be successful in trading. Okay. Some people it might be harder than other people. Okay. It may be very difficult. So if I were to look into proper kind of an area, okay, so what would make it very difficult? All the solutions are there, right? If you work for a company, a trading company, all the information is there, okay, and it is a matter of executing it, okay. So apparently not everybody can succeed, even though there is a formula. There is a formula that allows a person to be successful, okay? Right? So like S&P Capital, they have a proven formula, a track record, and people who have experience in being successful, and yet not everybody will succeed. Okay, not everybody will succeed. So they prefer to hire people who are essentially a college graduate. So because people who are experienced will stick to that particular way of trading, which forbids them from learning something new that the S&P Capital teaches. Okay, so that's why they prefer people who are new. Okay, like new college grads. It's easier to teach them, right? So I learned something about. So one of the things that has been plaguing. Okay, now I'm gonna get to the point for this discussion, for this recording. I'm going to so S&P Capital has this guy so Brett Steenbacher. He's a psychiatrist. There's a couple of psychiatrists that are useful in trading. One of them is Alexander Elder, who is a book author, right? Who wrote the book Trading for a Living, right? For obvious reasons there, because he's written a book. I read the book, but I didn't understand it. Okay, obviously. And then there's several psychiatrists who are trading psychiatrists uh, in the YouTube media area. Okay, and you can buy them. Okay, they're not cheap. Okay, it's like a service of a lawyer. Okay, services of a lawyer. They're not gonna give you everything in an hour. They're gonna allot certain time. So they've created a formula. Which allows them to make money, make a living uh, of providing uh, psychological implications of trading. Okay, so that's how they make their money. Okay, they make their money by providing a service of the minds. There's essentially so there's essentially like three markets in the trading world. Okay, One of them is psychiatry. Okay. The second part is the market, which is people get trained in it, and then there's also the strategy. Okay. There's strategy. There are three different disciplines of trading that is highly complex. Okay. And so understanding those three strategies allows a person to be successful as a trader. Okay. So I'm going to be exploring that. I'm gonna be. See, I've been doing this for 5.5 years, and I didn't know about these things, and so that's why it took so much time. But as I start to understand, I believe what's going to happen is it's going to be a parabolic type of situation. Okay, it will be a parabolic situation in terms of learning and understanding the market. That's one. The second part is my P&L is going to look like a parabolic curve. Okay, it's going to be these two things that will occur as my understanding increases. And this Brett Steenbacher said this, and this guy, so they make their money not as much as a very very successful trader, okay, but they are highly well compensated for being a medical doctor, okay. So Steenbacher comes out and says, okay, so I work for a medical university where he's a medical psychiatrist teacher, okay, and then he also has a side business where he's teaching traders how to incorporate psychology into trading, okay, and so so apparently he's also a trader too, okay, but he also admits that he's not a good trader. He's not a very good trader. He makes money, but he's not the best trader. That's what he says. So he has three qualifications. He is a trader. Okay, he makes money from trading. Probably not all the money from trading. Okay, but he's doing that in order to be familiar with the trading environment. Okay, so the second part, he's a university level teacher in psychiatry. Okay, as well as being uh, a supporting psychiatrist in a prop firm. Okay, so the third part is he has a side business where uh, he is providing his medical doctor services to people who seek him out in hopes of incorporating psychology into his training. Okay, so one of the intriguing things that he said, one of the intriguing thing he said is this. Along with practically every psychiatrist talks about the inner child. Okay, people talk about the inner child. Okay, but he says something like this. He said, "You have to be curious in order to be good at something, and trading is certainly. You have to be curious because there are so many things that are unknown. In order to be good at it, I have to be curious. If I'm not curious, then I'm going to be repeating the same thing over and over and over again, okay? I have to be curious. I have to wonder when I do this, why is this resulting? Then I have to be curious to dig into it and figure out why I did that, okay? So if I was curious, I would have completely understood how I was successful at 5K and repeat. All I have to do is repeat it. Okay, all I have to, in fact, maybe I need to go do that as part of the strategy, okay? Okay, so that's what I need to do, okay? And that's what he said. So the other part is the intriguing part that he said is this, and I'm going to get to this. I'm going to strategize how I'm going to be successful, and I'm going to go through it and see if it actually applies. I'm going to run it through. I'm going to run it through, okay? I'm going to run it through and then see, so I'm going to run it through and see how it's going to apply, okay? And the other part is I'm going to look at the market and see how I can properly gauge a couple things. The couple things, which is understanding what the trend is, okay? Okay, and what kind of structure it is, okay? So those two things, when I'm able to properly define those two things, it makes trading a lot easier, right? A lot easier. Because if I'm taking a stab in the dark, it's gonna be it's I'm prone to making the same mistakes over and over again because I'm prone to the market looking like uh, looking very attractive to a retail trader. Okay, so that's what I've been doing. I've been playing into this concept of the market wiggling, and then I'm prone to making these mistakes based on what I'm seeing. Okay, and so as a retailer, when I see a retail trader, that a retail trader, what I see is wrong. Okay, it's wrong. When I see it, it's wrong. I'm approaching it wrong, and so I gotta fix that. Okay, so then so then okay. The approach that I have is going to be the approach that I have is going to be so now I got to approach it in a manner. Okay, so this one is going to be about the inner child. This is going to be the inner child. Okay, so this is psychiatry of the inner child. Okay, this is the psychiatry of the inner child. And I learned this. I learned this yesterday. I learned this yesterday. Okay, on a Thursday. I learned this on a Thursday. There were a few things that occurred that caused me to learn this. Okay, so there were about three things. Okay, there were three things that occurred. Okay, and it has to do with being vulnerable to the external world. Okay, I'm vulnerable to the external world because I have an inner child. I was scratching my head because I've heard of many psychiatrists talk about not just in day trading, but in terms of people's behavior. Okay, people's behavior, which is directly related to trading, because it's an impulsive thing that is subconscious. It is, it cannot be controlled by the consciousness because it is the inner child. By its definition, it's the inner child. The inner child is controlling, is closest to the subconscious, and it is controlling my behavior, and it doesn't make sense on a logical level. For instance, I lost. I had two 10K challenges. One of them was down to 3.5%, which was negative 6.5%. Okay, and I had the second 10K challenge that I just bought. Okay, it was on my third day. Okay, the first 2 days went okay because it was green, right? But maybe I was making some mistakes and I didn't know about it. I was just lucky. Then on a Friday, I started trading without even thinking about the possibilities as I came in. I started to scale in with size and it just started to move against me. The first trade that I made was like that. And so I lost. So I was not prepared to make the trade. And I asked myself, why did I do that? Why did I do that? And I kept screaming at myself, you're just falling back to doing the same thing over again like 5 years ago. You're doing the same thing. I kept yelling and screaming at myself. Okay, what are you doing? Okay. So then I looked back at the record and I saw that there was a zero point 0.2 lot 3 times, which is the maximum gold trade on a challenge that I just bought. Okay, when I just jumped into getting back on it for Friday. Okay, and there were things like, okay, the Fridays are very difficult to do because there's a lot of things that are happening. Okay, there's a lot of external forces that are happening controlling the market, and it behaves very differently. Okay, it behaves unnaturally. It doesn't behave. It doesn't behave good. It behaves differently. Okay, because it has to meet certain forces that are causing the market to align itself in the hidden world that it wants to fit in. Like, for instance, the options. Options expire on Friday, and they have to adjust it so that people who are straddled in, they're trying to manipulate it so that they don't lose money or they want to maximize their gains. Okay, so they're doing these things. So Fridays are very difficult to understand what's happening. So these are market forces that are being imposed on a Friday. Okay, so I'm thinking so there were like three things that caused me to get into that mental mindset. Okay, it made me forget about how to trade. It made me forget. It made me forget how dangerous the market is. It made me forget. It made me forget what the strategy is. All I knew is this one part of it which says, okay, the only thing that I knew is that, okay, if I make a trade, because of what happened yesterday, it's going to repeat and I'm going to start making money. But I started out with a max size on the first trade without even thinking. And so, what programmed me or what erased my mind throughout the day that caused me to do that? What was different about from yesterday to today? Not much. Not much. I don't get much sleep these days. I don't know how I'm going to make it. I have absolutely no idea how I'm going to make it, okay? Because without sleep, it's virtually impossible. It's virtually impossible to do anything, okay, on a consistent basis. And it takes consistency in order to make it work this day, because trading is essentially like it's a string. It's essentially the same as walking on a tightrope, okay? A tightrope that is strung across two mountain peaks. One success, walking one step at a time is success, but the next step could be a demise. That's trading is that. Trading is essentially the same as walking on a tightrope. Okay? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Trading is the same thing as walking on a tightrope. That's all it is. Because every step I take has the potential to ruin my account. One step forward does not mean it's a success. Okay? It's only a success when I take money out of the market. That's the only success. But until I get to the point where I'm pulling money out of the market, it is dangerous as the first step to the last step. That's why when I'm on a platform challenge, I get to 7.75%. All I need is a few bucks. But if I have just one slip up thinking, okay, so I'm just gonna ram it in there and put some size in it, it's gonna go and I'm gonna get it. But what happens precisely at that moment is I will ram it in there and go the other way, and then I'll lose big. And then in order for me to get that back, I'll go bigger, and then I'll lose again. And then all of a sudden, I'm like 0.25% away from passing. I end up breaching the challenge. I've done this before. That's why I'm talking about it. That's why trading is like walking on a tightrope. That's essentially what it is. Because anything can come up and yank me down. Anything can happen. The market could change and my strategy and my mind could be correct. But when I'm unable to correctly assign the direction to the market, then it'll just crumble. If my strategy I forget, then my mind could be right and the market could be right, but the market is always changing. And so that could bring me down. But if my mind is also compromised, then that could also bring me down. The market and the strategy may be correct, but it'll force me to forget those things at that moment, and it'll bring me down. So it is like walking on a tightrope. Okay, every step forward does not mean it's a success until money comes out. So I have to ingrain this in my mind, thinking the money looks. So even if I am lucky that the money's in the challenge, I can see it. Okay, just like the 7.75% instead of being 8%, I can see it. It's right there. Okay, it's right there, but it's not a sure thing, because the only thing that is successful, a sure thing, is when the money's pulled out. Okay, that's the only way. As long as in there, even if it's $1 billion, anything can happen. It's like walking on a tightrope. That's what trading is. Trading is essentially walking on a tightrope. Okay, that's what it means. Trading is the same as walking on a tightrope. That's trading, okay? And I'll repeat it again. I don't mind repeating it because this is my channel, okay? Look at that. My hand is getting old. I'm an old man now. I'm like, I've aged quite a bit. I'm an ancient man now. I'm a very old man. In a few more years, I'm going to be collecting senior discounts at restaurants. Okay, I need to make this work. I told this Catholic deacon, look, uh, church is home. Okay, it's going home. The same as me being financially stable, which allows me to live in a house. Okay, I can't live in a house right now because I don't have the funds to do it. So I told this Catholic deacon, look, I appreciate the job, okay, because he owns the restaurant, okay, that I'm working at, and he's kind enough for me to reduce my hours so that I can focus more on this, okay. So I told him, look, I don't know how long it's gonna take, but I want to make sure I make this work, okay. A couple things will happen, okay. Either I will pass away trying, okay. Either I will die trying, okay. My kids left me. My ex-wife left me. I mean, what else is there? What else is there? Okay, what else is there? And so it's gonna be three things that so there's gonna be two things that will happen. Okay, I will die trying. Okay, obviously the end may not look too good, but I have Social Security at the point where I say, hey, look, there's no way I can do this anymore, right? I'll probably get to the point where I say, okay, I'm too old, and I've expended all my energy, and I'm physically sitting here trying to get this thing done is unhealthy. Okay, little walks in there is not going to be enough to sustain my health. Okay, and I'm gonna get to the point. So that's one thing that's gonna happen. I'm gonna be physically and mentally drained, and I'm gonna be too old for me to continue on this journey. Which means that's it. It's over. It's over. I've gone too far. Okay, I've gone too far. I've 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 I have swum too far to return. Okay, and the only next option is for me to collect Social Security, but that Social Security will not be able to pay my nursing home. Okay, that's what's going to happen. Okay, whatever I will receive from Social Security will not be able to pay for the nursing home because nursing homes are expensive. Because I put my father in it. Okay, all right, it's expensive. The out of pocket money for putting somebody in a nursing home is so expensive. Okay, it exceeds Social Security, whatever Social Security benefit is. So it's a point of no return. I've reached the point of no. There's no way. I cannot return. I cannot return. I've gone. I'm literally swimming with Gattaca. Okay, in the movie Gattaca, I'm literally swimming with Gattaca, and I'm swimming there. Okay. So that's one possibility. It's highly likely. I may never be able to see the doorsteps. I may never be able to put my foot inside the church ever again because I made this promise. Okay? I made this promise. I said this. I declared this, okay, on Facebook and to people that I know. I said this. I said, look, the only way that I'll be able to return to church is wearing a suit and a wad of cash. Those are the two requirements. And the only way that I'm going to achieve that is by being successful as a trader. Okay? And I know the involvement with God. Okay? Without God, I'm not going to be able to do that, firstly. Okay? Because I have to have that support. I have to have that support in order for me to achieve that. Okay? So it is on me to succeed. Okay? And so when I get to that point, I will get there. Okay, that's one. That's one scenario that's going to happen. Okay? I may never be able to uh, regain my financial standing in life. I may never be able to do that. That's one possibility. My health may decline. I'm so lucky that I'm still healthy. Okay, I'm very, very lucky. I'm so lucky that I'm still healthy here. I've been sitting in this chair for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and so I've been very lucky. Okay, and I'm an old man here, and so I don't know how long it's gonna. I don't know how long I'm gonna hold out. Okay, but that's one scenario. Now the second scenario is I'm going to succeed. Okay, I'm going to succeed. That's the second scenario. I'm going to succeed. I'm going to understand the market more. I'm going to understand my mind, and I'm going to understand the strategy. Okay. So when I understand those things and I apply it, and it is part of my life, when I make those things a part of my life and make it a habit, that I'm going to succeed no matter what. I'm going to succeed. It's a sure thing. When I have those things, I know the formula. Okay, it's a matter of just going deeper and deeper and understanding it. So now this is the point where it's getting to the subject matter of this video is this. Okay, now it's getting to this thing called the inner child. Okay, I didn't realize there are phenomenons on this earth. There are phenomenons on this earth that I never realized until today. Okay, so there's a few things that are there's at least a couple things that are going on in this world that I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea that it was occurring until this Thursday. Okay, this Thursday I finally come to understand it. It's like at night something bumps into me and I don't even know what it is, but it keeps bumping into me like years and years and years and years, and I don't understand it. Okay, something bumps into my life and I still don't understand it. Okay, right? Something There are things that go bump in the night that I don't understand. I don't see. I don't understand it. But it keeps happening until I understand it. The thing that there, because sometimes it's complicated. It's a complex thing. My strategy isn't there. I don't understand the market as well, and there's also that mind. Those three things that are complicating my trading. And so until I get to the point where I have mastered these three things, I'm going to keep bumping something at night and I won't know anything about it. Okay? So these three things has to be mastered in order to become a successful trader, right? I'm not talking to somebody who's successful, so I don't know, but I'm just saying this. I'm gonna admit. So somebody mentioned that I'm all talk. Of course I'm all talk. I freely admit, I freely admit, the only payout that I got was a 5K challenge, and it was twice. Okay, I was trying to work on the third one, but I was locked into an FOMC situation where I lost because it moved against me, and I didn't want to sell. I didn't want to lose. I was like hoping that it's going to come back up, but it never did, and I lost. Okay, so I'm freely admitting that I am a retail trader. Okay, that's why I'm a talk. Everybody who's a retail trader is all talk. All talk. Whether they talk or not talk, it's just talk. So when they open their mouth, they're talking. They're all talking. Okay? That's what a retail trader is. People who are successful and they talk, maybe their talk is not as all talk. Okay? Their actions are following what their talk is. But I'm all talk. Okay? It's obvious, right? I freely admit that if I was a profitable trader, there's a few things that would change. Okay? This video content will completely change. It's like starving and then getting into a point where, see, that's why people who are in the there a lot of people are fat because everything. So money buys you a lot of food, okay, and so they consume a lot of food, so that instantly they change, okay. So in acting, there's people who are starving, and then there are people who are acting who know how to act, who know about themselves, they could keep fit and stuff like that. So once you succeed, you're not a starving actor anymore. Okay, you starved yourself on purpose to stay fit, right? Before then, right? So I am a retail trader. I know it, okay? And I publicly disclose this, and every one of these is just talk, but I'm getting to the point where I'm discovering where I am. And so what I'm saying is probably totally 100% wrong, okay? But it is my way of self-discovery, okay? It's my way of self-discovery. That's me, okay? So then I discovered something so this will address my psychology. This is the point where I believe that I have now finally uh, understood the psychiatry of being a trader. Okay, the psychiatry of being a trader, and I didn't see it. I didn't see it, and it happened to me on a Thursday. Okay, so there were three incidents that occurred that caused me to finally see the light in what psychiatry is and the inner child. So there is this inner child, okay, which essentially is the psychiatry, okay? The inner child. It boils down to the inner child. I was trying to understand what these psychiatrists are talking about, and they keep everybody keeps saying this. All psychiatrists talk about the inner child. All psychiatrists talk about is anything there's an issue. It's the inner child, okay? It's the inner child that's acting out, okay? It's the inner child that is acting out. And because I'm not a psychiatrist, I am a retail trader, meaning I lose everything. I lose all the time. And I just also disclosed that I have two prop farm challenges that I bought with the hard earned money, $50 a pop, okay? I lost one. The second one, I was up 2.5%, and I dropped it down 3.5%. Luckily for me, I had a sense in mind to stop because it was falling into the same trap. I was falling into the same trap. I was up 2.5%. It took me 2 days to get to there. And I thought to myself, whoa, this really works. And then I started to like come in on a Thursday night, which is the fifth day of trading week. I sized in without even thinking. I just sized in. And of course, it started to move. I started adding, which was essentially saying to myself, I just want to lose. That's what I'm saying. Okay? That's what I did. All right? So then I lost the first trade, which was about a 1.5%. I could have stopped it right there, and I would still been up 1% in the challenge. I would still be positive 1%, but I kept trading, and I lost 2 more percent. And I'm scratching my head. How did this happen? But it does happen. It all boils down to the inner child. It really does. It boils down to the inner child. Okay? Now here's the part. So I discovered 3 things. So apparently there's this. So it boils down to I have been bombarded with this stuff. Whether I'm in a working environment or wherever I go, something pops up to disturb my peace. Okay? The balance that I've placed, something comes up to ruin it. Okay, something comes up to ruin it. It's a delicate balance. It's like walking on a tightrope. It's essentially walking on a tightrope. Okay? Trading is walking on a tightrope. So when there's a gust of wind that comes up, it knocks me out. It makes me fall. That's what's happening. I didn't realize this for 5.5 years, but it was occurring. So every interaction that I have with people, okay, if I was interacting with non-biological things, okay, which are not people, then my emotions will be different, as opposed to, it's like these things. So I was trying to log into Thinkorswim, and I haven't used that for years, and I tried to log in. Where is this market order? I can't figure out where the market order is. Right? There's no market order. None. It's gone. They made it so complex. Even the search doesn't give that information. So Thinkorswim is so complex. Okay? Just, where's the buy and sell button? Where is it? Okay? There's no buy and sell button on Thinkorswim. There's no. So they made it so I can see that. I can see the technical difficulties of understanding what Thinkorswim is. Okay? That's Thinkorswim. It's complex. But I can see that. So that is me interacting with the technical issue, right? Now here's the part where now I'm finally understanding the external implications of my trading, the external impact. So I've been saying this, and I've heard this from I've heard of this over and over and over again. I heard of this for the past 5.5 years as I was like studying. As I was trying to address the psychological impact of trading, okay? So one thing that people talk about is this. So even people who are highly, highly skilled, who has who has made over $100 million, okay, just trading, say that they hesitate to trade on a day when they're psychologically compromised by when they have an argument with something. Okay, that's what they say. Okay, that's how trigger it is. That's essentially like walking on a tightrope. Even people who are highly experienced, they have a hard time walking on that tightrope. Okay, but they maintain it because they have a higher degree of experience and technique, and habits that allows them to walk on that tightrope so that they get to the point where they can take money out. That's the difference between a retail trader and a highly successful trader, right? So even they say that they are susceptible to psychological damage. Okay? So these are things that happens. There's a couple things that happen that I've observed so far, okay? So there are a couple of things that happens that I observed which will negatively impact me, okay? Because it all deals with people, okay? And so what I've noticed is that not too many people that I meet on a regular basis are traders, okay? They don't trade the market. Nobody in Regis here is a trader. I am the trader. Nobody here is a trader. Nobody. A successful nobody. I heard from one of the people who work here that there's an office somewhere there where there's one person who is making money from the market. I don't know who that is, but apparently there is a person out there. There's somebody who's out there. Even the trading buddy of mine, he has a very difficult time. He makes money, okay? He makes money, but he doesn't always make money, okay? So he is not a reliable source to discuss the matter of walking on a tightrope, okay? So here's a couple things that I've observed. Why do I mention that? Okay? So it has something to do with individuals who project their thinking upon me, and I receive it subconsciously. And when I receive it subconsciously, I act upon that thought at the detriment of me. They think it's good for me, but it is actually a detriment to me. Okay? Here's an example. So the garlic butter. There's a garlic butter that is used to have it's called a garlic butter bread. Okay? So they sell it at a store. Okay? So what they do is they take an Italian bread, slice it in half, put garlic butter on it. Okay? On each side. So what I've noticed as I started to view myself after consuming it, one day, second day, and third day, as I start to consume, it is very similar to the impact of mayonnaise on my body and mind. Okay, and so I've noticed that what it will do is it'll cause my mind to be in a foggy state. It causes my mind to be in a dull state. It's dull. It's not sharp. It's dull. So the garlic butter does that to me. It enters into my body. It must be some sort of like a cholesterol kind of thing that is lining my arteries and veins, and so it is causing my body to somehow be negatively impacted because I'm not thinking properly. I'm some sort of like a. It feels like a slow morphine drip. It feels like a slow morphine drip. Okay, so it's definitely not a good thing. Okay, it's not a good thing. And so what I've noticed is that, so here's what happened. So I was at a store, and apparently their oven was down, okay? And so they're putting a new oven. It's been down for 5 days. And so I was trying to look for an Italian bread, but they didn't make any Italian bread. So they must have brought in this Italian bread from somewhere else. And so I asked this person who was installing the oven. I thought the person was working there. But he looked behind me, and this lady was standing there who works there and said, why don't you ask her, because she knows. So I asked her, hey, do you have Italian bread? And so I looked at the rack. There isn't any Italian bread. But the only Italian bread that was there had garlic butter on it, which is to me unhealthy. Okay? But to her, it didn't make any sense because she doesn't know who I am. So she thought she was doing the right thing. She didn't directly say, hey, go buy that. Okay? she thought about it, because after she looked at it, then I turned to it and I grabbed one and I said, hey, that should be okay. And I just walked out. But I finally connected it together that I concluded a few days ago that garlic butter is unhealthy to me, but I bought it anyway. So this is very similar to what trading is. Making mistakes. Even though it's not good for me, I do it anyway. Okay? Because this thought has intruded into my mind, which took a direct precedence into processing my thought without being vetted. Okay? It's like the United States government allowing Venezuelan criminals who have been released to be dumped into the American soil to receive it without properly being vetted. They're actively engaged in living their life, committing crime and things like that. It's allowing that free-thinking mind of criminal activities being explored in America. That's what was happening. I didn't have any borders, okay? This trading has so much to do with life, okay? So this intrusive thought, even though she was thinking in a well-intentioned manner, it was in fact deadly to me because it was causing me to be in a foggy state of mind, okay? So her thoughts invaded my mind, even though she wasn't directly taking my hand while I was grabbing it, things like that. But her thought had transferred into my mind so that I grabbed it, something that was unhealthy for me. I bought it only when I came here to consume it. After I took a couple bites, I realized, hey, this is not good for me. It's not healthy for me. And yet I still did it. Okay? That's trading. When I'm psychologically compromised, I would go big and I would do that. I fall victim to that. Okay? It happens. It happens to me. Other people, they have strict discipline. They don't do that. So I don't have in my mind a border that blocks illegal activities, illegal entry into America, right? Only legal ones that are accepted needs to come in. But it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to vet things out before it invades into my mind, okay? It invades. It's an invasion, something called the invasion of the body snatchers. That's what it is. It's the invasion of the body snatchers, okay? It's the invasion of the body snatchers happening every moment, every time as I'm walking on that tightrope. That's what's happening, okay? But people who are experienced know how to defend themselves psychologically, okay? They're able to defend themselves. They're able to defend themselves to keep on that pace. That's what they're doing, okay? I had no idea. Okay? They're not traders. They're not traders. They are not traders. They are not a programmed robot. They are their own being that project their own thoughts that are suitable. They are a program itself, the biological program that have the specific way of communicating with the external world. They don't know. They don't know what's healthy or unhealthy to me. They only know what's good for them, what works for them. So even though their intentions are good, it may not be good for me. As a trader, I know the difference. I can distinguish between what is good for me and what is not good for me, but I have a hard time controlling it. Okay? Because I have the subconscious inner child who is controlling my behavior. That's what it is. That's why I find it so difficult to do something even though it's so logical. Okay? So that's the first part that I saw on Thursday. So I'm thinking to myself, hey, I'm here, I'm munching on something that's deadly to me, so I just threw it away. Okay? I just threw it away. Okay? I stopped it. Okay? So then I thought to myself, okay, so that's the first part. And apparently there's a cashier who's leaving for California, and it was her last day on Thursday. It was her last day, and so somebody was throwing her a going away pizza party at work, and so I munched on approximately about 6 pizza slices. Okay, because I love to eat. Okay, not just pizza, but I love to eat. So I ate some. Okay, it was a It was a cheese encrusted, uh, cheese stuffed crust. Okay, so I ate that, and that was so I ate so much I was like, whoa. So so then she was going away, and she worked there for a while, and she has this I would say uh, humorous side to her. Okay, she has a humorous side. Okay, people have humorous sides, but they are standoff kind of a humorous side. But there are people who are intrusive and humorous. Okay, who impacts you right in the face, kind of a humor, where it's either a physical humor or some sort of something that is intrusive. Some people are passive. Some people are passively humorous, and some people are aggressively humorous. Aggression means that they're infringing their humor upon the other person for them to be so for them to enjoy a laugh. Okay, that's the difference between passive humor and aggressive humor. Okay, so the passive humor is somebody observes something that happens, they smile, they laugh about it. Okay, it's like somebody falling down. They go, "Oh, well, that's funny," if it was humorous. Okay, but they also have reserved themselves to understand that it's not. They are also understand the implications of falling down and things like that. But they found something that's humorous, right? But there are people who inject themselves into the situation to be in front of somebody to cause an aggressive humor to occur, and they find enjoyment in that, right? Sometimes they can be labeled as a bully, right? That's what they do, right? So they'll punch you in the face, they start laughing. Okay, that's an aggression, right? So I'm gonna drink a lot of water because I have a lot of things to do. I already know when people say I have a lot of things to do. It could be a few things, but I really do have a lot of things. I've been delaying this, but I need to start working on it. It's going to reduce the time that to really getting money out of the market. Okay, that's what I want to do. I want to do this, but this last psychological thing is giving me an idea. So what happens is that I heard this somewhere in science. What the brain functions at a specific frequency. Okay, okay. So the brain functions at a specific frequency. Okay. So my brain is here, a C average brain. There's another brain, a lady who's telling me to buy this garlic bread. She doesn't have to point. Okay, she doesn't have to point, but she thinks about it, and that thought enters into my subconsciousness. Okay, so it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like we're sharing the same brain. Okay, so when we're close together, it's like sharing the same brain, and she thinks about it, and it's like it's like it's like a charging a battery, contactless battery charger. Okay, so you put your cell phone on top of something, and it actually the battery is being charged up through air, pass through the air. Okay, so the battery in a cell phone is being charged through. So it's like inductive heating and things like that, right? So you send a huge amount of current in a loop, and then you put a metal bar across it, and the metal heats up. Okay, because what's happening is that huge amount of current is flowing through it, but because the metal bar is resistive, even though it's a conductor, because there's so much current flowing through it, it heats up. Okay, it's being injected with so much amount of current through it. It heats up. That's called inductive heating. Okay, that's electrical engineering. Okay, so what happens is when I'm standing next to somebody, their brains become one. I didn't realize this. Now I do. So when I go somewhere and somebody's thinking about it and looks at you, there's a mind transfer that occurs that will cause me to think in the same manner. Okay? Somebody will look at you close by, then your mind engages in it shares the same brain momentarily. That causes your mind to be programmed differently. And I know that garlic butter and like mayonnaise products will cause my brain to be in a foggy state, which is detrimental in my trading. I have to have a sharp mind, and I know what those things do to me. Okay, even though it's tasty and it's good, and they think it's a good idea, but their mind transfer is bad for me because it is negatively impacting me when I'm walking across that tightrope. Okay, to that payday. So far, what I do is I take a few steps, fall down, few steps, fall down. I just forget that the first step is the same as the last step. Okay, in trading, the first step is the same as the last step. Okay, because if I fall back, I'm gonna fall back a little bit. If I fall back again, fall back again, fall back again. But the forward progress has to be the same. I have to repeat the same thing over and over again. One trade is the same as 1,000 trade. Okay, that's essentially that's what I need to do. Okay, that's why somebody so this guy S&P wrote this called one good trade. Okay, one good trade. It's called consistency. When I have one good trade, it's going to be purely based on whether it's going to be statistical probability that's going to cause me to win or lose. And when I elevate that statistical probability, then I'm always going to lose. I'm always going to win, okay? And I'm going to lose less because it's going to be based on statistical probability, right? So there's that one part of it. I realized that mind transfer do occur, but I sometimes what I would do is I would be unconscious of that intrusion into my thinking because some people are good intentions, some people are not, okay? So this lady who is aggressively comedic, and there's people who are passively comedic. And so I was coming out of the walk-in refrigerator, and then I was knocking to let everybody know that the door is opening, and she sticks her head right in front of my face because she's leaving. Okay, that's our last day. And she apologized for because she thought I was somebody else. Okay, but that's an aggression. That's an aggressive. Okay, that's an aggressive way of communicating. And unfortunately, it's people. It's for people who are like. It's good for people who are bored in life. Okay, people who are bored in life. It's good for people to stick their face right in front of the other, or slap him across the face, or punch him in the face, or whatever it is, right? Because it breaks the monotony of living. Okay, because they're bored. It's they want that. They want that kind of attention and interaction. Okay, because it fills their life. That's why a lot of the YouTube videos that are like people falling down and people like crashing things and ruining things, it has a lot of views because people are interested in it. Okay, there's like millions of views on those things. But for me as a trader, I have to guard against that because that intrusion into my thinking will negatively impact. I will carry that information. I will carry that thought in my mind to trading. Okay, I'm going to carry that into trading. And so that intrusion, it will cause my subconscious to be reprogrammed. She doesn't know that. Okay, she's saying, well, she's going to be leaving. And so she's saying her final goodbyes, right? But it is essentially ruining. It's causing me to fall back. That's why it's been 5.5 years. I had so many of these interactions when I was working there, okay? The money was helping me to survive, but it was stripping me of being successful in what I'm doing. So I had to cut back on the hours, which essentially cut back the interactions that I have, okay? I used to wash dishes and also do the prep to a cook. Being a cook forces me to belch out of the orders and things like that and communicate, and that was negatively impacting me. Okay, so when I go to church, the pastor, the priest is delivering the message of God to be charitable. Okay, the priest is delivering a constant stream of a message of God, okay? To be selfless, okay? When you go to church, you're bringing onto yourself Jesus Christ. That's what the priest is delivering. The priest is delivering Jesus Christ into you. That's a big problem for me right now. Okay? That's a big problem. That's a big problem. Why is it a big problem? Because I cannot be charitable. I have to be selfish. I am a homeless man. My car is on its last leg. I got a text message from the dealership saying you need to bring in your car to be serviced. So I asked them how much it is. They said it's $42.50. I responded to them, look, I need to save some money so I can go there, okay? Although I just spent $15 buying a buffet today, okay? I was so hungry. I had to have something else to eat, okay? Aside from, I had to have something else to eat except eggs and a tortilla and a hot dog, okay? I had to have something, and cereal, okay? I had to have something else because I was like, I don't know. Soon I may have to switch this oatmeal so I can save enough money to bring my car in for service. But that's the condition that I'm in. I'm in this condition, okay? And so when I go to church, that's why I had to hold off on going to church, because the church is delivering the message of God. And here's this Jesus Christ hanging on a cross, dying for humanity, even though humanity is killing him. Okay? Okay? That's the message that the church is bringing, because people are selfish. Okay? People are selfish. Okay? They have to be selfish. So they have to be successful at what they do, which is being selfish. So they go to church to balance out their life, to allow charitable nature of life to come forth, being programmed by the church to be charitable. Okay? I cannot do that right now. I cannot be charitable. I found myself, after I go to church, I would lose my challenge because I'm being charitable. Okay? I'm still being charitable, but I'm fighting it. Okay? But when I was going to church, I would give money away. Okay? Here I am. I'm a homeless freaking man. I'm being charitable. I cannot be charitable. I feel like I'm standing next to this homeless guy who's on a street corner. I feel like digging my money out, giving it to him. Even though I'm homeless. I can't do that. I cannot do that. I have to be selfish. And so that's why I had to hold off on going to church, okay? I had to hold off. That's why there's a prerequisite. I have to be successful financially before I get to church. There are two things that will occur. I will wear a suit. It's imperative that I wear a suit. It is imperative. And I will have a wad of cash. It may be $1 bills or $2 bills or something, but it's going to be a wad of cash, okay? And I'm gonna give that, okay, once that happens. I know that God is with me whether I'm in church or I'm here. I know it. I know it. Okay? But when I go to church, that imposition, that infringement, that guy hanging on the cross that's so in order for me to be selfish, I have to do that, right? So that's the second part that I noticed about this Thursday, that interaction with this individual, okay? Who's leaving, who's going to go to California. I don't know whether it's going to be north or south or wherever it is, where Los Angeles or Sacramento or something like that. But it might have something to do with acting, okay? So I don't know. So that's an intrusion. I carry that. Those two things, it occurred to me before I started trading, okay? So that dulled my sense of trading. I was heading into closing out this week without a big loss, and that big loss just popped up, okay? It popped up, all right? I was trying to keep those losses to a minimum. It just popped up, and it just erased the first 10K challenge that was brought down. I just erased it. I was going massive. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go big here. But it was the wrong time to do it. Okay, there's a time and a place to go big, and even if the conditions look right, it may not be right. So I have to make sure that it's right, really right. Okay, when the trend is when I'm thinking of a trend and I correctly assign that trend where the market is truly going in that trend, then things make sense. But the way that the market moves is hard to define. That's why I'm a retail trader. That's why other people are pros, because they're able to define it correctly, more so than less correctly. Where I am more wrong than right. Okay, that's what a trader is. Okay, retail trader. So that second thing happened, which was programming my mind. Okay, which I need to reduce. Okay, soon I'm gonna start having liver spots. That's what old people do. They have liver spots. Okay, old people have liver spots. That's what happens. That's becoming. I'm preparing myself. I have little liver spots. That's becoming old. I'm an old man. I'm an old man. Okay. So the owner comes over a few days ago and he says, "Hey, you work like a 25-year-old." Okay. I appreciate what you said. Okay. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you said, but I'm a 57-year-old man going on 80. Okay. I have been locked up in this self-imposed prison for 5.5 years, 6 years now, going on 6 years, 4 more years to go, and I've aged mentally. I have aged so much, and I told him, look, your thinking changes when you're 80 years old. Your total changes. It's like Charlie Munger being interviewed at age 100, saying to himself, "When I was 96 years old, I had enough strength to fish for a 200-pound tuna, but now that I'm 100 years old, I'm too weak." Okay, so your thinking changes dramatically. Okay, it changes dramatically. Okay, it's like that. It's like oh, it would be so much fun to ride on a motorcycle and go somewhere. And then now that I'm thinking, okay, so then I'm thinking, yeah, one fall will end my life. Okay, when you get old, one fall will end your life. Okay, it may not happen in a single day, but it'll permanently disfigure you and disable you, so that it is virtually impossible to recover at that age. Okay? One fall will essentially permanently disable your life. Okay? That's what happens when you're old. And so I'm thinking, okay, so I can ride a bicycle, but I know what happens. I'm more aware of what's happening. And so I don't do that. Okay? I prefer something that has four wheels. And still, that's difficult to do. Okay? Because I have to look back, I have to look side, and all this stuff. I have to see what the speed is, and all this stuff, and I have to pay attention to the car in front of me when they're making a turn, when it's like going 30. Yeah, all these complications. When you're on a motorcycle, I mean, these people who are riding around as e-scooters and things like that, there's going to be a lot more accidents. Okay, they could just popping up anywhere. They have to be. Oh yeah, it's dangerous. So that's the second part that programmed my mind. I have to be very careful about it, and so I have to. So just like closing the U.S. border, I have to close the border. I have to close the border. I cannot be opening up my mind. Okay, I cannot. I cannot allow the external forces to see. So it so when this pastor that I sat down with, he said I have a closed mind. There's a reason why my mind is closed, because I wanted to protect myself. I had to protect myself. That's why I was closed-minded, because I was being damaged and hurt. Okay? All right? So when he opened up my mind, it was negatively impacting my trading. So I have to close my mind to certain situations. Okay? Not all the time, but I have to close my mind to certain situations. Okay? In order to protect myself. In order to create a stable environment for myself, I have to create the stability in me, which means it can only occur when I close my mind in a certain situation. Okay, in trading, I have to close my mind, as I have an open mind to be curious to understand it, but I only accept what is good and helpful to me, but close it to the external world, which is 90% incorrect in the way that I'm thinking. That's what keeps keeping me from being a retail trader. I am a retail trader primarily based on the fact that I am receiving things that are 90% incorrect in the practice of trading. Okay, so I need to be curious about what that 10% is, so I need to harness it into my life, but I need to keep bay that 90% that forces me to be a retail trader. Okay, so when I was walking out of that refrigerator, she is promoting retail trading, and I cannot allow that to enter into my consciousness or the subconsciousness. Okay, so those two things occurred. Okay, that garlic butter and that intrusion into my peace when I was walking out of that refrigerator. Okay, now the third part is more amazing, and this is something that I've that is really, it's like punch in the brain. Okay, it's like being punched in the brain. That's what it is essentially. Now I've experienced this. I've experienced this numerous times, and I know that this is essentially ruining my challenge. I know it. It's ruining my account. I know it for sure, and I've experienced this so many times. Okay, so this is a scenario where I've personally experienced to the degree where I've lost everything, and I don't blame that person. It's just that's what the person is. This third person is, I've seen this before. It comes and goes. So when you squash out the gang leader, okay, or a mafia leader, or a they call this in Mexico cartel, okay. When you get rid of the head of the cartel, they promote somebody to replace that person, okay. So when the so the demons of the world will find some ways to replace wherever the vacancy is, okay. That's why you have like the scandal, okay. So what's his name? The child ring that they had, right? Whatever his name is. Now he's gone, but somewhere somebody's gonna pop up because there's a demand for that market, okay. Yeah, what's his name? Anyway, so it's a big blow up where you have like the Prince of the England was involved and whatever it is. And I mean, you have high political figures, you have billionaires involved and things like that, right? Whatever his name is, okay? So as soon as you get rid of him, somebody else is going to replace him. It replaces. It happens. And I've experienced this multiple times. And the environment that I'm in are less, because of their less sophistication into the awareness of what happens to certain disciplines, which is the discipline of trading has specific the discipline of trading has specific behavioral component of being successful as a trader, okay. There it is. But when you're working in a restaurant, the rules and regulations are quite different, and I don't blame anybody, okay. I'm just describing what's happening. I'm just describing what's happening, okay. I'm just as a analogy, okay. I'm just using as an analogy of what's happening. What's happening, okay. What is happening, okay. What is happening? It's like in the movies, okay. It's like in the movies, like the movie Aliens, okay, with Sigourney Weaver and things like that, right? So these aliens want to eat human beings, okay. That's what they do. That's their nature, okay. But it is negatively impacting my psychological peace because they want to invade me and then use me as food, and then after that I'm done. Okay, that's what they want to do. So what that means by definition, what they're doing is they are negatively impacting my well-being, psychological well-being, at the least, right? That's what's happening. So what I've noticed is that it happens in various ways. So I can be at a heightened state of mind where my body has been programmed, okay, to work in a couple areas where I'm physically moving around, and then trying to stabilize that so that I can get into a point of my mind and body being matched up to trading properly, and that's difficult to do. It's difficult to keep studying and keep and trading properly, okay? Because it's a totally different environment, okay? And so this third interaction that I had, which finally brought out what was so obvious that I could not see. It was so obvious I could not see it. Okay. The mind, and I've been trying to I've been harnessing this thought for years. Okay. It's a thought about what the brain is. Okay. The mind. Okay. Okay. Right. It's the brain. Okay. What makes me a human being? It's the brain. In essence, what makes me a human being is the brain. It really is. Okay. Practically everything about my physical being is very similar to the next animal. Okay. Which is the monkey and all that other stuff. Okay. But what makes me different is my brain. Okay. What makes me different is my brain. Okay. If I was a whale and I had this brain, I would find some means to figure out how to communicate. Okay. I would figure it out before they before they harpoon me and then eat me as a sushi. Okay, before that happens. Okay, probably the smart ones who try to communicate with human beings were eaten alive. Okay, probably right. So a whale would approach a ship and say, "Hi, my name is Mr. Whale. How are you?" And the ship would harpoon me and start to eat me before we can communicate, right? That's what happens. Okay, that's what happens because it's the lack of communication between. It's a lack of a psychological pool of communication, divergently different. Okay. Okay. So on a personal level, this is great stuff. This is really good stuff. This is really good stuff for me. It may be boring for others, but this is really important for me. Okay, this is. I've been living in America. I've been living in America for 47 years, and I'm finally understanding it. Okay. So what's happening is this. Okay. When I moved to the United States, 47 years ago, there weren't too many people like myself, okay? Except for many years ago during the Western days, when the Chinese people were imported to like build the railroads and things like that, right? So there were a few people there, but for me, when I got to this area, which is the Boise area, there weren't too many people. I would look all around and I couldn't see anybody. Okay, the only thing that I could see was the reflection that is coming from the bathroom mirror that was in there. Right, I see myself and I can see anywhere else. Okay, and so and then I grew up on TV. Okay, U.S. TV, and because I'm looking at it one way, I wasn't looking for whatever it is, okay, of me. I was just seeing people who were dialoguing, and I was interested in the dialogue that they were having and the culture that was being displayed. And so I saw that. And then as I started to grow up and then more people like myself who started to appear around me, right? And so I started to interact with them. And what I've noticed is that I have totally reprogrammed my inner being, my mind and heart into being an American, which is completely different. Okay, right? And so this reminds me of this Asian guy who was on what is this? America Has Talent or something like that. And this guy's singing this country music, and the voice is the same as the voice is same as whatever that country music singer is. I forget what his name is. It's been a very long time, but I mean, he's got this deep, throaty men's voice. Okay, Garth Brooks or something like that. No, it's deeper than Garth Brooks. Okay. And so they can't believe their eyes that where is that sound coming from? His mouth is opening, and but they can't tell. So what I've noticed is this: my mind was an American, but in my appearance, I was like a fob, fresh off the boat. Okay, so wherever I go, whatever the situation is, I was, visually speaking, a fob. They couldn't tell. But the Asians that were around me would look at me and they would look at my appearance. They think, oh, that guy is the same as us. Okay? Then they started talking to me and they realized, hey, this guy is not us. That guy's not us. Okay? then then I would be interacting with other the locals here, right? And then I would interact with it, and they would say to myself right off the bat, "Hey, he's not one of us, but he sure talks funny. Boy, he sure talks funny. He talks like he's one of us, but he's not one of us." So I figured out that I was like somewhere in between because I couldn't fit in with any of them because somehow I'm not one of them. Okay, I'm not one of them. Okay, all right. So the importance of the mind is so vivid. I didn't know it. I didn't know it. Okay? I didn't realize how powerful the mind is. It makes me a human being. It makes me who I am. Whatever I think becomes a reality. I heard of this. I saw this news about this couple, young couple, who lives in Florida. They were swimming. What do you think is going to happen when you're swimming? This is very similar to people who don't use stop losses. Okay, what do you think is going to happen if you don't use stop losses? Apparently, this alligator grabbed onto the female who was swimming there and did a death roll. Okay, so the young man went over there, helped out, so he released it and then grabbed the other arm and just did another death roll. Okay, because what the alligator is trying to do is to tear off that arm so he can eat it. Okay. Okay, because their mind is incapable of understanding that current situation. Okay, so their mind was incapable of understanding. How did I get to that point? Anyway, so to get back to the point is this: the mind is so important. So now, the third scenario was this. The third scenario, okay. So I started working there, and there's this dishwasher who is maybe 4 foot tall. Okay, 4 foot tall. All right, and so apparently he used to be a military person. So he walks over and shows me this YouTube video of this communist party on a military parade. Okay, and she shows me this, and he's talking about he's from another country. Okay, he's from another country. I won't say what country it is, but he's from another country. Okay, to keep him anonymous. Okay, so so then he shows this to me, and I'm thinking, what is this guy doing? I'm working, but I have to respond. I have to be kind. I have to be charitable, but I cannot be charitable. Okay, I was screaming last night as I lost. Okay, I cannot be charitable to this person. I cannot be charitable. I have to do my job so I can get out of this situation. It's like me being homeless and I have $5 and I'm giving that $5 to somebody else to eat when that person is richer than I am. Okay, I cannot do that, but I do it anyway. Okay, because I'm too stupid. I'm because I am not smart. I'm not a smart man. Okay, and that's why I'm taking this $5. The last $5 that I have, I give it to somebody who has $500 in their pocket. Okay, they're far smarter than I am. Because they don't want to know that I'm living out of my car. They don't want to know that. All they care about is stuffing money into their pocket wherever it comes. Okay, that's being selfish. Okay. So here's this guy walks over, uses his cell phone, and says, "Hey, something, something, something." Okay, in his own native tongue, and I'm thinking, what is this guy talking about? Okay, what is this guy talking about? Okay, I don't have time to be to conversing with this person about whatever he's talking about. And I can see from the picture, it's a shocking picture of these communist people who are driving their tanks in a parade. Okay, and what does communism have with the United States? It's a complete departure from the way of life of being an American. Okay, so he is attacking my mind with this video. Okay, he's literally attacking me with this video. Okay, because he was part of that system. He's trying to infiltrate my mind to destroy my mind with that video. And I told him, look, I don't know whether he understands it or not, but I said, look, One U.S. bomb will destroy all of that, okay? But maybe he understood, or I don't know what it is. But maybe he was upset, or I don't know, okay? But he's trying to say something, but keep that stuff away from me, okay? Keep that away, okay? So, so then that's the first part of it. That's the first component. But he's 4 foot tall, okay? And so then this is the second interaction that I had with him. Okay, this is the second interaction with him, and now now he does not he doesn't like being in America. I don't know why he doesn't like America. Okay, I love America despite the fact that I'm homeless. Okay, loving something doesn't mean whether I get compensated or not. It means that I love America for what it is. Okay, that's the love I have for America. Okay, and I say it. Not too many people know that I'm homeless and I love America. Even though I'm homeless in America, I love America. Okay, all right. And so this guy, this 4 foot tall guy who's washing dishes, okay, which I used to do, okay. While I was doing that, I was doing the dinner side, and literally I was walking so much that I could have finished a marathon. Okay, okay, maybe a marathon and a half every night for several years. Okay, I was eating I was eating buffet left and right, and I was not gaining weight at all because I was burning it off. I was like eating and eating and eating, and they would never. I wouldn't gain any weight because I was like burning off excess, and I would like drink sodas and all that stuff, and I survived that. Okay, so I know what he's doing. Okay, I know. I used to be a dishwasher. Okay, that he was doing. Okay, and so so in order to make something called an au jus, it's an au jus. Au jus is it's a formulation of all these raw ingredients, various raw ingredients, meats and vegetables and all scrap materials that are placed into a vat with water, and then it's cooked for quite a while to create this au jus. It's a French sauce, okay, liquid sauce, but it comes in a huge aluminum pot, okay, and so they're done with it, and then brings it over, and he's cleaning it, but he's too short, and so he places it on the floor, and he's asking me to help him. Okay, so he's climbing above a table so they can put it on the top shelf. Okay, so I'm in no situation. I'm not, I don't play that game. Okay, I'm not playing the game where I'm like helping this little kid. Okay, uh, he's old as I am, but because he's physically short, it's like a kid. And so what he's saying is, okay, now I'm gonna go up. He's not telling me, so he goes up. He looks in my direction. Okay, so I know what he's gonna say and do. Okay, so essentially what I do is I pick this up and I just put it up there. Okay, so then he comes down and he gives me this dirty look. Okay, you're not doing what I was hoping you would do. Okay, I'm trying to lead this situation so that you would do that, but homie, don't play that. Okay, I don't play that. Okay, so I put it up there and it says, and then I told him, hey, do you know who Spud Webb is? Okay, he doesn't know because he grew up in some other country. Spud Webb is this National Basketball Association professional basketball player who was very short, but he was successful. He's not a dunker like Bugsy Muggs. Okay, what was what's his name? Okay, Bugsy Mosey or something, Mosey Bugs or Bugsy Mose. Okay, and so I mentioned him. Do you know who Spud Webb is? Okay, and he knows nothing about it. Well, look it up. Okay. And so a moment goes by, and then another guy, a young fellow who is probably in high school, jumps over and says, "Oh, Muggsy Bogues." Okay, and I told him, "Well, it's Spud Webb." Okay, both are very short. Okay, and one of them can dunk. Okay, so that ended that little scenario. Okay, that's number two. That's number two incident that occurred on Thursday, and the third incident occurs this way. And I told him, look, I stepped away from what I was doing just to inform them what's going on. I told them, look, you live in America, and you live in America, and in order to understand America, you have to watch news, you have to watch American sports, and you have to watch TV. Okay, so when you do that on a constant basis, you're going to figure out what America is about. Then you can better judge whether you like America or not like America, love America or not love America, because he does not love America. He doesn't like America. He told me that he is here because of his kids or whatever it is. But so I was telling him that I love America, okay, and that if you want to know more about it, so that you can judge for yourself, you have to live in the American news, live in the American TV, and you have to live in American sports in order to get a better grasp of what America is, right? So then he looks at me and he shakes his head multiple times, okay, which is telling me that he disagrees. He does not like America. And then afterwards, I thought, but I can tell that he was very, very upset. Okay, that I said that. He was very, very upset that I said that. Okay, and my thinking, the love for this country is completely different than his love for this. So he must be. So he is clearly hateful of whatever the situation is, and visibly I can tell that it triggers the hate that's inside him. Okay, I can see that, and so he shakes his head and very, very, like, he was like stone face. He was very, very stone face. So that was incident number 3. Okay, that's number 3. Incident number 3. I pray I'm still employed there. I pray. This is just a dialogue, but this is what I'm receiving from what he's doing. Okay. So what that did was it programmed my mind in a subconscious manner. I was dealing with an individual who was deeply hateful of that conversation. Okay. So that that infringement of that mind transfer of was totally programming my mind to deviate from the normal business of trading. Okay, it was literally it was literally erasing the memory that I have of trading, and the knowledge and the techniques and things like that, the wisdom of trading. It was completely erasing my mind. And so when I sat here after those incidents, I completely didn't know what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing, but I was being driven by this subconscious, and it was being it was reprogrammed into my mind. And so the interaction that I have that will negatively impact my mind needs to be blocked out. It needs to be separated from my thinking in order for me to trade well. It's like having an argument with somebody. Me engaging with somebody on a normal dialogue, which creates an emotion of certain preferences of that other person, and being introduced into my mind, into my subconscious, negatively impacts the way that I trade. Okay? It clearly did, because it totally dismantled it. What I knew on a Wednesday and a Thursday that made me successful became totally unraveled on a Friday. Okay? Because of those incidences. And I didn't have I didn't have that kind of a situation. The emotional trigger type of information the past few days. Okay? That's why it occurs once in a while. It does that. It enters into my mind in a subconscious level. Okay? It enters into my mind because it's disrupting the person I am, the person that I built up in order to be a trader. Okay? I have to preserve who I am as a trader in order for me to trade well. Once I introduce the retail trader mindset and the world of retail trader into my mind, I become disarrayed, tattered, and then forget my objective of being a focused trader. Okay? Most people are happy-go-lucky. They're not. So most people in life, they don't really care. They're not really serious. They're not. Most people don't. They're not. Most people are not The reason why most people are sitting on the bleachers is because they're not as focused and dedicated as those people who are in the center court. They're not they're not in a tennis match for the world title because their their thinking is totally divergent. Okay? Their thinking and total dedication is completely different than what those two people are doing. Okay? That's why most people in UFCs they're not in the ring. They're outside viewing because their specialty is different, and they have a lack of the interest of whatever they're watching because they're looking at something that they don't do. Okay, and so what happens is that if those people who are in the UFC who are vying for the championship, they acted the same way as the retail trader who just got off picking up watermelons, okay, for the whole day and sitting in front of the TV and drinking a Coors Light day after day after day, they're not going to be able to compete. They're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to block those punches. They're not going to be able to uh, move themselves out of being kicked. Okay, so that's what happens. They're not able to. They're not able to properly run the 100-meter dash because they're not prepared. Okay, that's what retail traders. That's what. That's why the elite people. That's why the elite. That's why the elite people. Okay, live in a particular environment because they have to live in that environment. If they don't live in that environment, they're not going to be able to compete. They're not going to compete in that environment. And therefore, when I'm communicating with people who are not traders, okay, they may be very good at what they do. I would never be able to compete. I would never be able to communicate with a comedian, okay? Even though I do get some laughter, but I would never put myself in that situation. Okay? The dialogue that I would have conversation with a comedian would be completely different. Okay? Maybe they're serious, maybe they're not serious. Okay? But the way that the way that 90% of the people find humorous is not funny to me. It is an undermining of what's happening. So you have this Richard Pryor, okay? He talks about drugs a lot because he puts himself in that situation, okay? Right? So as a trader, I cannot put myself in that situation. So he has one of these skits where apparently he had an argument with his ex-wife, with his wife, and so he was out there and he took out his revolver and shot the tires, and he mimics what the tire was doing, like fizzing and stuff, that the air was coming out, and it's funny, okay, but I can never do that as a trader because I have to keep my discipline, okay. This is very, very serious. This is a very, very serious business where I'm walking on a tightrope, and I cannot be drinking either. I cannot be drinking and driving. I cannot be drinking while I'm trading. Okay, that's the difference. But 90% of people, they have a cold one. Okay, they do their construction work. They come back and they're tired. They want to relax. Okay, and so they have open up a cold Coors Light and a Miller Light or whatever it is. They start drinking. They relax. They relax their body in preparation for the next day. Right? I cannot do that. That's not something that I can do. Okay? And so that interaction was reprogramming my mind. And that is a finality of the description of what emotional impact has, the external information which 90% of the population carries around them. They may or may not know the impact that they're imposing upon me, who requires a peaceful situation that needs to be stabilized in order to conduct my business of trading. Because if it deviates from the base as a foundation of peace, the peace being the foundation of my trading, then what it will do is whatever I knew, I forget, because the emotion will cause me to forget. Okay, and I will do things that will be vengeful, and and fall into what 90% of people do because they reward that, okay? So the 90% of the world rewards certain behaviors that will undermine the productivity of making money from the market. That's why they're called a retail trader. That's why I am a retail trader. So when I have that dialogue with that person, okay, when I have a dialogue with that person, okay, who gets very upset when I tell them America is the greatest country in the whole wide world, and some people get really upset. They get very, very upset. Okay? When I say to certain people, America is the best country in the whole wide world, people will get very, very upset. And then when they get upset, that emotion infiltrates into my mind, okay? Because they will hate me just like the way that they hate America, okay? This is a prime example of the political landscape of Minnesota, right? And the representative of Minnesota, okay? Now Omar, who's who's a congresswoman, hates America, wants to destroy America, okay? It's a fact, okay? She tore down the American flag, okay, and then placed a something that looks like a Somalian flag, okay? That's what they do, okay? And so they get very upset. They become very vile. That emotion is transferred over to me, and subconsciously I receive it because I don't have a border to block it out. I don't have a defense mechanism that blocks me, okay? It doesn't shelter my inner child. Whether that inner child ever grows up or not, I don't know. Okay? Whether that inner child, because I am not a psychiatrist and I don't have that fact, okay? Does the inner child ever grow up? Let's see. Okay, so apparently, it makes sense. It makes sense. In order for the inner child to grow up, the reason why the inner child remains a child is because of self damage that occurred to cause it to be emotionally blocked off, and that's why the person remains as an inner child. So, in order to grow up uh, as an to raise to grow the inner child, I have to be a parent to myself. So I have to be a parent to myself to raise my inner child. Okay? So for the time being, I have to protect myself so that I can protect my inner child. Okay? And while I'm protecting my inner child, I have to start growing my inner child by being the best a parent to myself. My kids label me as a biological parent. My ex-wife labels me as a biological parent. I can see why. There's a big void in me being a father. Okay, I'm not a good father. I'm not. I know it. I am absolutely sure that I'm not a good father. Okay, I'm not, because there's a vacancy in me of being a good parent. Okay, I know it. I lack it severely. And even though it's written in books and things like that, I would read it, but I would not understand it because I don't know anything about it. I don't know what it means to be a father. I don't. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what it means. I'm freely admitting it. I'm not, because I didn't see it. I saw it, but I saw things, but I cannot make sense of what it is so that I could place it into myself to understand it and grow with it. I saw, but it was so distant, I was unable to see it. Okay? I was unable to see that. Okay? So I know for sure that I am not a good father. I know that. And they're right. They're 100% correct. And so in order for me to grow that inner child, I have to be a parent to myself. So the thing that pops up is called anxiety and reactivity. Okay, it's anxiety and reactivity, which makes sense. The reason that I'm like revenge trading is because in me, there is a part of me which is a market child. There is a child in me which is a market child. Because I don't have enough exposure to the market, I'm essentially a child and I react to it negatively, like being on tilt and revenge trading and not wanting to do it. That's a child. That's so I have to grow that. Now, how do I grow my inner child? Okay, how do I grow my inner child? I have to allow my inner child to understand that the market is safe. Okay, whatever I do, it's safe. I have to create an environment where I have to say to myself, look, it's safe. Whatever happens in the external world is not going to impact the way that I'm trading. Okay, so I have to teach myself whatever happens, first of all. So I heard this, I reviewed this, and it makes a lot of sense. The Market Wizard book, second book, was talking about this. Apparently, there are steps to becoming a profitable trader. One, you stop losing big. Then you start to build consistency, which makes sense. For 5.5 years, I've been losing everything. Even though I was sporadically consistent, there will be that one day that would totally ruin it. So if I can remove that big lost day, I know that I can come back to it. So how do I fix that? How do I fix that? Okay. So how do I fix that? And I know the formula that I lose. Okay. I know the formula that I lose. Okay. It coincides with certain emotional, psychological trauma that I receive from the external world. Okay. The mind essentially makes real whatever happens. It becomes a reality. Okay, it becomes reality. So I've been, now that Charlie Kirk is gone. Okay, I'm reviewing what he said, and I realized, boy, this guy's very wise. He knows a lot of good things. And the person who uh, murdered him, okay, right, who murdered Charlie Kirk, uh, was mentally disfigured. Okay, he's mentally disfigured, and so his mind made it real enough that he had to destroy another person. Okay, that's how powerful the mind is, because it could be good or bad. The mind can be programmed to be good or bad. The mind can be programmed to be good or bad, essentially. Whatever happens, the mind can be programmed to be good or bad. The body is a tool that the mind uses to express the external physical world, okay, into its thinking, okay? And so the mind is very, very real. And whatever the external forces is programming it, it's causing the self to behave in a certain way, consciously or subconsciously. And when I saw that point 0.2 lot 3 times yesterday, when I look at it, obviously after the fact, okay, it's a self demise. Okay, I'm trying to lose the challenge, even though at that moment I'm saying I need to get it back. I need to get it back, but going with maximum size, clearly logical side, there are two things. The condition is not right. That's why I'm losing. When I lose, the condition is not right. So I keep talking to myself this way, to my inner child. I'm talking to myself. I'm talking to myself. I am talking to my inner child. I'm saying to myself, look, losses will occur. So there's a couple things that I need to do in order to alleviate this loss. So there's a remedy for this. There's a prescription for this. Uh, there's a diagnosis which essentially is it's called tilt. Okay, it's a diagnosis. How do I fix this? Okay, What is this remedy? What's the remedy? This inner child needs to understand is this, okay? Only, only when trading conditions are favorable, I can go big. Okay? Okay? Only when trading conditions are good, go big. But when the trading condition is poor, go small. If you're not sure, start with small. And then after verifying that it is good, then go big. That's all I have to do. Right? So the inner child needs to understand that simple fact about that, but the inner child does not understand it. Okay? So if I look at it in terms of how the inner child behaves, is this, okay? So this inner child was exposed to a hostile environment on Thursday for those three things, even though they may have good intentions. Okay, so it's like going out in the field and there's a hornet's nest. The hornet's nest is naturally doing what they're doing. They're protecting themselves. But I walk in there, I take a big stick and I take a whack at it, and the only thing that the hornets see is me, and the hornets attack me. Okay, those conditions are the same way that I experienced on Thursday. Okay, so everybody is a hornet's nest. Okay, everyone is a hornet's nest. Everyone is a hornet's nest. Because I know how powerful. See, I didn't take thinking that seriously. I didn't realize. I didn't. That's why I got straight C's in school. Okay, I didn't think about it. I didn't realize. I didn't place emphasis on the gravity of how important the mind is. That because I thought the mind was it wasn't anything. It's not worth anything. It's like looking at a woman who's 5 foot tall, and I'm thinking, oh, she's a pushover. There for two things. If it's a man who's that tall, that's one thing. But if it's a woman that's that tall, she has two things that are going against her. Okay, first, she's a woman. In the old days, they didn't care about women either. That's one, and she's short, so that makes it even worse. So she's like it's a multiplication of the powers of two kind of thing, which are causing the person to be in an agitated state when certain things happen. But if you're a man, and if you're a Napoleon Bonaparte, you may be short, but I mean, you can wreak havoc, okay? Because you were given the license to behave in that manner as a man who may be short. And usually, when you're short, you have a tendency to be extremely violent, okay? And that's what I've experienced on Thursday. I didn't realize that. That dishwasher, with all due respect, and I'm just saying this, there's no problem with that. I'll just stay clear of it, okay? I have no problem. I need this job, okay? And all I do is I just do prep work, okay? So so that little man is a hornet's nest, okay? When I tell him that America is the greatest country in the whole world because he came from a communist country and he still loves his country, he wants to destroy me, okay? Because he disagrees with my thinking, okay? I have no disagreement with what he's thinking. I'm just saying that America is the greatest country in this whole wide world. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. To him, it's not, okay? And so when I say that, when he's trying to invade Europe, okay, and conquer everything because they have this when somebody's who's short, I mean they have this Napoleon complex, which means that they get very violent, okay, and because the brain is very powerful, it can cause a severe interaction, and I carry that here. They'll look at you like they want to murder you, kind of thing, for making that statement. That's how people in Europe operates. They're not America. That's why it makes America the greatest country in the world. Okay, right? And so the inner child, the inner child is needs to be nurtured in order to grow the inner child. Because everything in life, when I'm initially exposed to it, I am essentially being born into that environment, and it has been that way for being a trader. And so when I started out, my physical being and my mind was mature in certain parts of it, but it is a nubile. It is an infant in the trading world. Okay, so it is natural for me to now make that connection as I start to grow. That's how I nurture myself into becoming a mature person as a trader. Okay, right? So I may be totally incapable of doing something else, some other subject matter, but I am at a point where now I am maturing as a trader, and I know the complications and the difficulties, complex and difficulties of trading, and those three things, which are essentially the market, the mind, and strategy. And so when I get those things matured enough, then I am building a consistency. And taking stop losses seriously is a big deal. So the difference between 4.5% and 3.5% is 1%, but that 1% can be dramatically different in the mind. I could have stopped at 1.5%, but I didn't. I didn't stop it at 1.5% because that train wreck was continuing and I could not stop it. It's the mind, because I wasn't able to physically see my hand, so I can stop my hand from doing whatever that is. It's the mind that's rolling. It's an invisible train. It is a invisible locomotive train that is careening out of control, and I have no way to stop it. Okay, it's like that X-Men character where it just goes right through. Okay, walls and things like that. That's the mind. It's the mind, and the mind controls the body, and wherever the mind goes, the body follows. How could it be the other way around? Does the mind follow wherever the body goes? I guess it works both ways. But in trading, it's the mind. I'm interacting with it. I'm interacting with whatever is happening. The body's completely removed from whatever information is out there. So the body reacts to what the brain and mind is thinking. Okay? And so that inner child is controlling my trading. Okay? And I would scream at myself, okay? The inner child who did that, okay? Which is same person, even the logical side. Then if the logical side knew it, then it needs to fix that issue. So it's equally the same problem. It's the parent. It's the parent who's at fault. Okay? So if the child is misbehaving, it's the same thing. So when I'm screaming at myself, I can blame my inner child, but it's actually me, the parent, who's not incapable of parenting my child, which is me. That's causing the problem. Okay? So it all ties into what the world is doing and how it fits into the market. Okay? I'm to blame. The inner child is just behaving the way that it was raised. Okay? I'm ultimately, when I'm screaming myself, I'm screaming at myself, even though I'm blaming this side of me, which ties into what that inner child is making me do, is essentially falling back upon myself, which is essentially I'm blaming myself. I'm screaming at myself. Okay? That's what's happening. Okay? So now I found a profound respect for the mind. And the people that are around me, I know that they're reprogramming my mind. And so when I'm walking around people, I know that they're impacting me, whether I'm observing them or not, but they're observing me. Okay? It's like I go to a grocery store, a woman is standing there, and she's thinking about something. And I pick that up. And then what I pick it up is that there's a garlic butter there, garlic butter bread. And I buy that because she's thinking about that. And I carry that over. and I pick it up without even knowing it, because it triggers the inner child in me that wants to eat that, whereas I was not even looking at it. But that observance of pointing that out forces me to buy it. So I have to be careful about that kind of thing too. I have to be aware about that. It's the intrusion of external world that are undermining my trading, that is invading my mind. The second part is upfront, right in the face, in front, just face planting into my consciousness, which is the second one. Okay. This person who's leaving for California, I was coming out of the refrigerator. This happened on Thursday. It's just the face is right there, and she says, "Oh, sorry, I thought that you were somebody else," right? So that's the intrusion, the shock and awe, which causes the mind to be tattered. It's like bursting a bubble when they're not expecting it, right? It's like setting off a firecracker in front of somebody's back, okay, and just causing the person to be in shock, okay. That's what's happening, right? It disrupts it disrupts the inner peace for their own satisfaction, okay. That's number two. The third part is interacting with somebody who has deeply hateful kind of emotional trigger to something that I find not too emotional. And when I'm around that person, the person can give you a dirty, dirty, deep-seating hatred look. And that dirty, hateful look transferred into my mind, it causes me to be damaged, okay? It's like sitting in front of a police officer, and I'm telling this police officer I'm innocent, and she gets incredibly upset. She like agitates. She's about to take that baton, just whack across my face. Okay, that energy transfers over, and I can feel it. I can feel what she's doing. Okay, because her perception of reality is completely different than my perception of reality. Right? Because she has made up her mind in her mind. Okay. So it also falls into somebody who is, it falls into somebody who is psychologically understanding of Jesus Christ and somebody who's not. Okay. It's completely different. Even within faiths, the way that they conduct themselves in their faith is different. Okay. That's why there's a clash between Muslims and Christians. Okay. Christians, they want to live in peace, but Muslims, they want to eradicate all Christians. Okay, that's the reality. Okay, it's the invasion of the, it's the invasion. It's the invasion. Okay, it directly applies to my thinking as well. Okay, so I have to protect myself. I have to protect my inner child, and I didn't know about this. I've been losing, and I was carrying that psychological thing into trading. That's the one component out of the three components. Okay? I need to be ever vigilant about I need to be ever vigilant about protecting my inner child, my psychological peace. I have to protect that always. Always. Okay? Because I'm using that when I'm trading. I'm using that when I'm preparing to trade, and when I'm in the throes of trading, I need to make sure my mind has peace. And I have to have all those three things that are actively engaged in being charitable to me. Not to the external world. I have to be charitable to me. I have to be charitable to me. Okay? I have to understand the market. I have to understand my mind, the current state of my mind. And thirdly, I have to employ that strategy. Okay? Those three things will help me walk that tightrope. Trading is walking on that tightrope. I may have gone 5 steps, okay? But it is the same thing. The 6th step is the same thing as the first step. The last step is the same thing as the first step. It's a repeat of what's happening. That's why it makes so much sense to, somebody wrote this book called One Good Trade. Because one good trade, okay, means progression towards a payout. But one bad trade can literally wipe out everything. I have to go all the way back to the beginning. And I've been doing this cycling through over and over and over and over again.